Welcome, traveler of the inner world. You have arrived not by accident, but by quiet design. This is daily Dharma listening, a refuge for those who seek stillness in the whirlwind, light in the fog, and truth in the echo of ancient voices. As the world spins louder, we begin our journey not by adding more noise, but by turning inward. We do not need more answers. We need a deeper question. Let us begin again. Not with ambition, nor with desperation, but with gentle awareness, the kind that arises when you sit with yourself, without judgment. This moment is not a continuation of the past. It is not the result of all you failed to do, nor a punishment for the ways you've gone astray. This moment is a seed, a breath, a chance. And this is where the Dharma begins. In the teachings of the Buddha, the most profound transformations begin not with mastery, but with mindfulness. With the simple act of noticing how you breathe, how you speak, how you suffer, how you hope. Buddhism for beginners does not mean simplicity in the shallow sense. It means stripping away the unneeded, returning to the root, watching the mind like one watches a candle in the wind, not to control it, but to understand it. In a world trained to react, the Buddhist path teaches us to observe. To ask, quietly, is this thought helpful? Is this emotion mine, or did I inherit it? Is this fear real, or is it memory dressed as prophecy? In this way, ancient Buddhist teachings are not meant to be studied, but lived. The Buddha did not want disciples who believed, he wanted seekers who saw. And the first thing we must learn to see is ourselves. To find peace in chaos, one must stop looking for peace as a destination. Peace is not a vacation from suffering, nor a reward after struggle. It is what remains when we are no longer at war with what is. It is presence, unburdened. When the mind lets go of its cravings, for certainty, validation, permanence, a great stillness begins to bloom. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It does not impress anyone. But it saves you. There is a temple inside you. Not made of stone or stricture, but of silence. When you visit it, you remember that you are not your confusion, not your past, not even your story. You are the awareness beneath it all, the watcher, not the waves. To live without fear is not to banish fear, but to no longer be owned by it. Fear will knock, but you do not need to answer. In our culture of constant movement, rest is radical. To sit still with a cup of tea, to observe the steam rise and disappear, is to practice the Dharma. To pause before reacting to an insult, to breathe before making a decision, to listen fully to someone in pain, these are not small things. These are revolutions. Buddhist wisdom is not found only in monasteries. It is found in how you greet your mornings, how you speak to the tired cashier, how you meet the uncertainty of your life without collapse. How to stay calm and positive is not a trick of the mind. It is a way of being. It is the slow art of letting go, of outcomes, of attachments, of identities. When we cling, we suffer. When we flow, we are free. The lotus grows from mud not by resisting the dirt, but by reaching through it. Likewise, we grow by allowing the darkness to teach us where the light wants to emerge. When you feel lost, truly lost, do not panic. Being lost is a sacred state. It means the old maps no longer work. It means you are on the edge of transformation. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost are simple: sit down, breathe, observe. The path will find you. Not by force, but by invitation. Protect your energy not with walls, but with wisdom. Do not absorb the suffering of others as your own. Compassion does not mean exhaustion. Boundaries are not unkind. They are a form of clarity. When your heart is heavy, do not rush to lighten it. Sit with it. Ask it what it wants to show you. Most of the time, pain does not want to be solved. It wants to be seen. To transform your mind is not to become someone new. It is to return to the one you were before the world taught you to forget. The Buddhist path is not about addition. It is about subtraction. What must you unlearn to return to peace? What beliefs no longer serve you? What habits were born of survival but now rob you of presence? Live without fear by remembering that nothing is truly yours, not your body, not your possessions, not even the people you love. This is not a sad truth. It is a liberating one. When we release our grip, we are free to truly love, truly live. Nothing can be taken from one who does not cling. So if you are searching for Buddhism for beginners, begin here. Notice your breath. Notice where your shoulders tense. Notice the stories your mind tells you when you are tired. Begin not with grand plans, but with humble awareness. This is the seed of awakening. Buddhist teachings are not theories. They are tools. When anxiety rises, ask, who is the one suffering? When anger burns, ask, what am I protecting? When joy comes, do not chase it, bow to it. Everything is impermanent, and in this, we are free. In modern life, it is easy to drown in noise. But you are not helpless. You can choose differently. You can walk slowly. Speak kindly. Listen fully. You can wake up each morning and decide, today, I will not abandon myself. And if you fail, you can begin again. Each moment is an altar. Each breath, a prayer. You do not need to be perfect to be at peace. You only need to be present. So breathe. Feel. Watch. Let life move through you without resistance. This is the path. This is the teaching. This is the beginning. If this reflection touched something true within you, let this be your practice. Subscribe to Daily Dharma Listening, so that the wisdom continues to find you in the quiet corners of your day. Like this offering, if it lit even a small candle in your heart. Share it with a friend who walks through the same storms. Let the Dharma ripple. You are not alone on this path. And each time you return, you begin again. Part 2. The mind is a mirror, clearing the dust of illusion. The mind is a mirror, said the masters of old. It does not create reality, but reflects it. Yet over time, this mirror becomes clouded, not by age, but by our clinging, our craving, our constant stream of thoughts. We no longer see things as they are. We see them as we fear, as we desire, as we remember, as we judge. And in this distortion, suffering takes root. But the dust is not the mirror. The mirror is still there, clear, radiant, waiting. It does not need to be replaced. It needs only to be wiped clean with the cloth of awareness. The Buddha did not teach us to escape the world, but to understand it, and through understanding, to be free. He pointed not outward, but inward, toward the mind that colors every experience. You may change your circumstances, but if your mind remains agitated, you will find suffering in even the most peaceful places. You may lose everything, yet if your mind is still and luminous, you will walk through grief without collapse. This is the power of training the mind, not to control the world, but to transform how you experience it. Each thought is like a ripple on a pond. If we identify with every ripple, we are tossed endlessly across the surface. But when we sit in meditation, truly sit, we begin to see beneath the ripples, into the depth. Thoughts rise and fall. Emotions move through us like clouds across the sky. But the sky remains untouched. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom, to dwell not in the clouds, but in the vastness of the sky. When we speak of how to stay calm and positive, we do not mean ignoring pain or pretending life is always gentle. Rather, we mean cultivating equanimity, the ability to meet whatever arises with steadiness. The calm mind is not the mind that avoids difficulty, but the one that does not react blindly. It is trained like a musician tunes a string, not too loose, not too tight. In this tuning, the music of wisdom begins to play. You have been taught to achieve, to perform, to chase. But the Dharma invites you to stop, to sit, to return. When you stop chasing happiness, it arrives. When you stop running from discomfort, it softens. There is a great relief in no longer resisting life. This is how you find peace in chaos, not by waiting for the storm to end, but by learning how to breathe within it. The world may remain loud, but your inner space becomes a quiet forest, where even sorrow finds rest. To live without fear is to understand that fear is not your enemy. It is a messenger. It tells you where you are still clinging. Clinging to control. Clinging to the known. Clinging to identity. Fear arises when the ego trembles, when the illusion of permanence begins to crack. But this cracking is not the end. It is the beginning. When fear speaks, listen not to its panic, but to its source. What are you protecting? What have you mistaken for yourself? The Buddhist path is not a path of belief, but of seeing. It is not about accepting dogma, but about waking up. To transform your mind is not a one-time event. It is 1,000 quiet moments of returning to the present, of noticing the grasping, of letting go. Again and again, until one day, you realize that peace is not something you attain. It is what you return to when you stop abandoning yourself. There is a strange paradox in Buddha's teachings. The more you try to hold on to yourself, the more you suffer. But when you loosen your grip, when you stop trying to prove, to possess, to control, a deeper self begins to emerge. Not the constructed identity of name and role and story, but the luminous awareness behind it all. This awareness does not need validation. It does not panic when plans fall apart. It is like water, fluid, clear, without edges. In the modern world, we are taught to fix things, to solve problems, to optimize. But not all wounds need fixing. Some need holding. Some need silence. When you feel broken, Buddhist lessons for anxiety invite you not to patch yourself up, but to sit gently with the brokenness. To feel where the pain lives in your body. To breathe into it. To watch it change. Everything arises and passes away. Even the ache you thought would last forever. Protect your energy by becoming discerning. Not judgmental, but aware. Who and what you give your attention to shapes your inner landscape. If you water weeds, they grow. If you feed your mind with noise, your thoughts become frantic. Choose instead the nourishment of silence, of nature, of wisdom. Let the mind rest, like a cup of muddy water left untouched. Slowly, the sediment settles. Clarity returns. When you feel lost, remember, the path is not ahead of you. It is beneath your feet. Every moment of mindfulness is a step home. Every time you close your eyes and breathe deeply, you return. There is no final destination in the Dharma. Only deepening. Only softening. Only remembering what was always true, that you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not late. You are already on the path. Let the mirror of your mind become still. Let it reflect things as they are. Not as you wish, not as you fear, but as they truly are. In this seeing, there is liberation. In this seeing, you discover that the world is not something to conquer, it is something to witness, to walk through with reverence. Every sound, every face, every moment is part of the unfolding. And you, when fully present, are no longer a separate self, but part of the vast dance of life. This is the wisdom that does not age. The teaching that does not fade. It is not hidden. It is not reserved for saints. It lives in the breath. In the pause between reaction and response. In the willingness to look inward, even when it's uncomfortable. So, sit. Listen. Watch. Allow the dust of illusion to settle. And as the mirror clears, you will see not just the world, but your own face, free of distortion. You will see the sacred in the ordinary. And perhaps, for the first time, you will recognize yourself, not as the person shaped by fear and memory, but as the spacious, luminous awareness that has always been watching. The path continues. The mirror waits. All you must do is turn inward. Part 3. The weight you carry is not yours, letting go in the light of Buddhist wisdom. There comes a time when a person sits alone, not in sadness, not in despair, but in stillness so deep it feels like touching the bottom of a well, where the echo of ancient truths can finally be heard again. And in that sacred silence, the realization arises, not as a thought, but as a knowing, much of what you carry was never yours to begin with. The burdens you cradle, the expectations, the fears, the inherited patterns of pain, they were handed to you, like stones passed down from tired hands to tired hands, until you forgot that you had the choice to put them down. And this, too, is the path of the Buddha, not merely a path of seeking, but of releasing. Buddhism does not begin with perfection. It begins with honesty. And if you are honest, you might see how much of your inner heaviness is borrowed, beliefs planted in childhood by voices that never learned peace, energies absorbed from chaotic rooms and conversations that left you hollow, identities shaped more by survival than by truth. When the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, he did not promise a life free of hardship. He offered a lantern in the dark. Suffering exists, it has a cause, it has an end, and there is a path that leads to the end. But to walk that path, you must lighten the load. In the practice of Buddha's teachings, letting go is not a dramatic act. It is subtle. It is quiet. It is the willingness to observe your own attachments and say, I see you. Not with judgment, but with clarity. And then to say, you may go. The clinging mind resists this. It wants to hold. It says, but this pain defines me. This identity protects me. This fear keeps me safe. But the Dharma gently whispers, no, child. This is not who you are. This is who you learn to be. How do you begin to release what no longer serves you? Not by force, but by attention. Pay close attention to your suffering, not in a way that keeps you trapped, but in a way that allows you to understand its shape, its source, its illusion. When anger rises, look at what it's guarding. When sadness lingers, ask what it is asking for. Buddhist wisdom is not about suppression. It is about seeing so clearly that illusions dissolve on their own. To find peace in chaos, you must stop believing that peace lies on the other side of achievement, or approval, or certainty. Peace is here, beneath the noise. It is not a destination. It is a choice, made again and again, in each moment you decide not to be pulled into the storm. It is the stillness at the center of the spinning wheel, always present, though rarely visited. Live without fear, not because fear disappears, but because your relationship to it changes. Imagine holding a glass of water at arm's length. For a few minutes, it's easy. But over time, your arm begins to ache. The glass doesn't get heavier, but the strain builds. This is how fear works. The longer you hold it, the heavier it becomes. But what if you simply placed it down? What if you stopped gripping the story that says you must always be on guard, always be ready for pain? Transform your mind not by replacing negative thoughts with positive ones, but by stepping back and watching them all. Watch the fear rise. Watch the shame speak. Watch the doubt try to narrate your life. And then, choose not to follow. You are not these voices. You are the space in which they arise. And the more you recognize this, the more their grip loosens. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is the deep work of liberation. Many come to Buddhist teachings searching for how to stay calm and positive. But calmness is not the goal. Awareness is. Positivity can become another mask. What the Dharma offers is something more profound, the ability to be with whatever arises without being swept away. It teaches you to sit with discomfort and not flinch. To sit with joy and not cling. To sit with emptiness and not panic. This is the strength cultivated in stillness. There is great suffering in holding on. Buddhist lessons for anxiety remind us that anxiety is often a signal, not of danger, but of unprocessed energy, fear that has not been felt, grief that has not been named, stories that have not been questioned. Protect your energy by honoring where your attention goes. If you constantly feed the mind with fear-based narratives, it will grow into a garden of thorns. But if you nourish it with presence, with breath, with silence, the thorns soften. The garden heals. The mind that is always reacting has no space to reflect. And a life without reflection becomes mechanical. You wake, you work, you worry, you sleep, and call it a life. But the Dharma invites you to wake up in the deepest sense. To realize that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. And when you clear the inner space, you begin to move through the world differently, not as a victim of events, but as a participant in the unfolding of wisdom. When you feel lost, remember this: the map is not outside you. It is etched in the very texture of your awareness. The breath you ignore. The body you neglect. The silence you fear. All of these are doorways back to yourself. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost are not complicated. Sit down. Breathe. Listen. You are not far. You are not broken. You are simply being invited to come home. Letting go is not giving up. It is returning to balance. When the tree sheds its leaves, it is not dying. It is preparing for renewal. You, too, must learn the sacred art of shedding, not just once, but many times. Each season of your life will ask you to release something, a belief, a rule, a relationship, a version of yourself. Do not resist. The more gently you let go, the more easily the new can arrive. Even now, as you listen to these words, feel what is ready to be set down. Perhaps it is the story that you are not enough. Perhaps it is the guilt you carry for being human. Perhaps it is the relentless voice that tells you you must earn your right to rest. Hold it for a moment. See it clearly. And then, place it down. You will not disappear without it. You will emerge. The Buddhist path does not demand you become someone else. It invites you to remember who you were before the layers of conditioning, before the armor, before the performance. In that remembrance, peace is not something added, it is what remains when the unnecessary is removed. So walk gently. Speak truthfully. And sit often in silence. The weight you carry is not yours. Set it down. And in that sacred pause, listen. Not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet truth that rises from the depths of your being. You were never meant to suffer alone. You were meant to awaken. Slowly. Gently. One breath at a time. And the way forward is not out there. It is already within you. Part 4. The silence between thoughts, discovering truth beyond words. Before words, there was awareness. Before the mind began to label, to divide, to declare, there was only this, a vast, quiet presence, unbound by judgment, unshaped by time. And though we have wandered far from that original stillness, the path of the Buddha has never ceased to call us back, not to more knowledge, not to more achievement, but to a sacred return. In this return, we are not asked to become, but to remember. Not to grasp, but to release. And it is in the silence between thoughts where this remembering begins. We live in a world filled with noise, not only in the streets and screens, but in our own minds. The inner commentary runs endlessly, planning, regretting, analyzing, comparing. Each thought arising like a ripple on the surface of a lake, each emotion responding to a story, each reaction strengthening the illusion of self. And yet, Buddhist teachings remind us, thoughts are not truth. They are echoes. They are habits. They are clouds passing through the sky of awareness. If we mistake them for reality, we suffer. If we see them for what they are, we begin to awaken. The silence between thoughts is not empty. It is alive. It is where intuition lies, where wisdom breathes, where peace abides untouched. In meditation, we do not aim to stop thoughts as if they are intruders. We observe them, kindly, letting them rise and fall without interference. And slowly, like mist lifting from the mountains, a deeper clarity emerges. We begin to see that the self we defend so fiercely, the self that feels offended, anxious, superior, inferior, is a construction. Useful at times, but not real in the ultimate sense. Beneath it is a vastness that does not need defense, does not crave recognition, and does not fear dissolution. How to stay calm and positive, then, is not a matter of controlling thoughts, but of changing our relationship to them. When we become the observer, rather than the identified, we create space. And in that space, calmness arises naturally. We do not have to manufacture positivity. We only need to stop feeding the fire of our reactivity. This is the essence of mindfulness, not a technique, but a way of being with what is. No longer pushing away pain. No longer clinging to pleasure. Simply being, in full presence, without the filter of opinion. To find peace in chaos, you must step out of the storm of thought and into the field of awareness. Chaos in the world is inevitable. But chaos in the mind is optional. Even in the midst of noise, you can access the silence between thoughts. It is as close as your next breath. It is the moment you pause before responding. The moment you see the anger rise, and instead of acting from it, you breathe. The moment you catch yourself judging and instead of believing the judgment, you notice it, like a leaf falling on a still pond. This is presence. And presence is peace. Live without fear, not by numbing fear, but by seeing through it. Fear is often a projection, the mind imagining loss, imagining pain, imagining death. But the Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. And if we truly understand impermanence, fear begins to lose its grip. What you fear will come, may never come. And if it does, it will pass. What you cling to will fade, no matter how tightly you hold. So why not relax the grip now? Why not meet each moment as it is, rather than through the lens of imagined catastrophe? Buddhist teachings do not promise a life free from pain. They promise freedom within pain. That you may suffer, but not be defined by suffering. That you may feel grief, but not be buried in it. That you may walk through fire, but not be consumed. This is the strength of the awakened heart, soft, yet unbreakable. Vulnerable, yet boundless. The heart that knows how to feel fully without drowning in the feeling. Transform your mind not by replacing one story with another, but by dropping the need for story. Who would you be without the narrative? Without the constant retelling of what happened, what should have happened, what must happen next. There is a sacred simplicity in just being. Watching a bird cross the sky. Washing a dish with full attention. Sitting beneath a tree with no agenda. In these moments, the false self, the one built on fear, ambition, regret, begins to dissolve. And what remains is something wordless, something real. When anxiety arises, and it will, Buddhist lessons for anxiety remind us to return to the body. Not to escape the mind, but to anchor ourselves in the present. Anxiety cannot thrive in the here and now. It needs projection. It needs story. So come back to what is real, your feet on the floor. The rhythm of your breath. The sounds in the room. Anxiety may still whisper, but you no longer follow it into the maze. Protect your energy not by avoiding life, but by becoming conscious of what you consume, not just food or media, but thoughts, conversations, environments. You are sensitive, and that is not a weakness. It is a doorway to deep wisdom. But sensitivity without awareness becomes overwhelm. Sensitivity with mindfulness becomes discernment. Know what drains you. Know what nourishes you. And let your choices reflect this knowing. When you feel lost, it may be because you are trying to navigate life using an old map, one drawn from fear, from outdated beliefs, from other people's expectations. But the terrain has changed. You have changed. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost do not give you a new map. They teach you to stop, to sit, to listen. And in the stillness, the way reveals itself, not as a grand plan, but as the next step, the next breath, the quiet sense that you are exactly where you need to be, even if you do not understand why. The silence between thoughts is the gateway to all wisdom traditions. In that silence, you remember that you are not separate from the world. You are not a guest in this universe. You are it, breathing, evolving, awakening. And though your mind may argue, may resist, may distract, beneath it all is the quiet truth that never left: you are already whole. Already enough. Already free. This is not philosophy. It is practice. Sit in silence. Not for answers, but for space. Let the thoughts come and go. Do not fight them. Do not follow them. Just watch. Like clouds drifting. Like waves lapping against the shore. In time, the silence between them grows. And in that silence, a new kind of seeing emerges, not through the eyes, but through presence. And through this presence, truth begins to speak, not in words, but in being. This is the essence of the path, not to acquire more, but to return to less. Not to ascend, but to descend into the depths of what has always been here. The silence between thoughts is not a void. It is the womb of awareness, the source of compassion, the home of peace. And it is always waiting, just beneath the next breath. Part 5. Carry nothing but presence, the path of freedom through simplicity. There is a path so quiet, so subtle, that most will walk past it without notice. It does not call out like the loud ambitions of the world. It does not glitter with rewards or offer you promises of greatness. Instead, it asks you one question: can you live today carrying nothing but presence? No burdens of who you think you must become. No weight of what you have failed to achieve. No rehearsed stories of pain, no memorized roles, no imaginary debts to the past or the future. Just this moment, naked and complete. The Buddha, in his deep compassion, did not hand us commandments. He offered a mirror. And in that mirror, we begin to see how heavy we have become, how much we carry, how little we need. When you wake in the morning, before the stories return, before your mind clothes you in anxiety or plans, there is a space. A breath. That breath is the gate. It is the reminder that life begins again now. You do not need to bring the entire past with you into today. You do not need to gather every loose thread and carry it on your back like a duty. You can begin again. And again. And again. This is not denial. This is freedom. This is the Buddhist teaching that liberation is always in reach, not in some distant mountain or future lifetime, but right here, in how you choose to see, to move, to meet this breath. The teachings of impermanence are not meant to frighten you. They are a mercy. They mean nothing stays stuck. No emotion, no identity, no wound. What hurts today will not always hurt. What feels impossible to let go of will eventually dissolve like ink in water. The Dharma is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming unharmed by your own resistance. To feel sorrow without collapsing. To feel joy without grasping. To allow all of it to rise and pass, and remain unshaken. This is the power of presence. And presence only exists in the absence of carrying. You ask how to stay calm and positive. The answer is not in adding something to your mind, but in subtracting what is false. The mind becomes chaotic not because of life's events, but because of your attachment to controlling them. It becomes negative not because of reality, but because of the lenses you wear, lenses shaped by fear, by habit, by unresolved wounds. The Buddhist way invites you to notice those lenses, not with shame, but with gentle curiosity. And then to ask, what if I don't need this lens today? What if I can walk through this experience with clear eyes and an open heart? Peace is not something to achieve. It is what remains when you are no longer at war with the present. It is the natural state of the unburdened mind. Like a palm that reflects the sky when the wind settles. You do not need to create peace. You need only to stop disturbing it. This is how you find peace in chaos, not by escaping the world, but by no longer creating inner conflict about what is. Acceptance is not passivity. It is the doorway to right action. It is the clarity that arises when you are no longer tangled in resistance. To live without fear is not to be reckless. It is to trust in your own awareness. Fear is the child of imagination. It feeds on the unknown, on the illusion of control. But the more present you become, the more you see, there is nothing to control, and thus, nothing to fear. Each moment contains what it contains. You meet it. You respond. You release. That is all. The future is not your enemy. It is simply not your responsibility right now. Transform your mind not with slogans or affirmations, but with the quiet, persistent turning toward truth. See things as they are, not as you wish them to be. See your reactions, your impulses, your longings. Watch how they rise from causes and conditions. Nothing in you is permanent. Nothing is wrong. Everything is arising and passing, like weather in the sky. Let your mind become spacious enough to hold it all without clinging. This is the mind of the Buddha, vast, compassionate, free. Anxiety whispers that you must do more, fix more, be more. Buddhist lessons for anxiety offer no quick fix. But they do offer a path. A path that begins with one breath. One moment of stepping out of the story and into the body. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the air on your skin. Watch your breath without trying to control it. In this awareness, anxiety loses its fuel. You are no longer spinning in thought. You are here, alive, grounded, enough. To protect your energy is to honor your clarity. You are not required to absorb the energies around you. You are not obligated to fix everyone. Compassion does not mean collapse. Buddhist compassion begins with wisdom. With knowing what you are capable of holding, and where you must let go. Boundaries are not walls. They are the structure that allows your inner temple to remain sacred. You are not a sponge for the suffering of the world. You are a lighthouse. Stay rooted. Shine clearly. When you feel lost, remember, you are never truly lost. You are simply between narratives. The old story has ended, the new one has not begun. This is the fertile void, the sacred pause. Do not rush to define yourself again. Do not grasp for identity. Be empty for a while. Let the silence speak. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost say, stop trying to be found. Just be. In time, what is true will return. Not as a role to perform, but as a deeper knowing that cannot be shaken. Simplicity is a sacred act of rebellion in a world addicted to complexity. Carry nothing but presence, and you begin to see clearly. The smile of a stranger becomes a teaching. The sound of the wind becomes a bell. The weight of your own body on the chair becomes an anchor to this world. The Dharma is not found in exotic places. It is found in the way you close a door gently. In how you breathe while waiting in line. In how you listen, fully, without waiting to speak. You are not required to save the world. You are only required to show up fully to your own moment. And in doing so, you become the kind of presence that transforms the world quietly. A person who is truly present, who carries nothing but presence, is a rare and healing force. Not because they speak wisely, but because their silence radiates wisdom. Not because they fix others, but because their being invites others to remember who they are beneath the noise. This is the teaching. This is the invitation. Set it all down. The proving, the pretending, the punishing thoughts. Carry nothing but presence. The rest will fall into place. Or it won't. But either way, you will be free. And if these words find you in a quiet hour of longing, if they touch a place you've tried to silence, let this be your sign: the path is here, now. You are not late. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. You are ready. You always were. Let the burdens fall. Let the presence rise. If this offering has stirred something in your heart, I gently invite you to continue this walk with us. Subscribe to Daily Dharma Listening to receive this stream of stillness again. Like this video if the teaching brought you peace. Share it with someone who walks a heavy path. May the Dharma ripple where it is most needed. You are enough, as you are. Stay close. The path is not ahead. It begins with this breath. Part 6. Where suffering ends, the still gate of insight. Suffering begins not in the world, but in the way we meet the world. It is not born from rain or heat, from sorrow or aging, from the presence of pain or the absence of joy. Suffering arises when we cling to what is passing, to what is imagined, to what never truly belonged to us in the first place. And this is where the great river of Buddhist teachings flows, not into promises of pleasure, not into fantasies of escape, but into the heart of this very moment, where suffering can be known, and, in being known, dissolved. We are taught from a young age to resist, to push away what feels unpleasant, to grasp tightly what feels good, to manage life like a task, to avoid loss like a threat, to defend the small self like a fragile flame. But resistance is friction, and friction is the very mechanism of dukkha, the suffering the Buddha spoke of, which threads through every craving, every aversion, every false identification. In our modern search for happiness, we overlook the still gate of insight, that peace does not lie in reshaping the world to suit our preferences, but in reshaping the mind to meet the world with understanding. To find peace in chaos is not to eliminate the chaos, but to cease being at war with it. Chaos is movement. Impermanence unfolding. Birth and death dancing through form. It is not the enemy. The mind that demands stillness as a condition for peace will never know peace. But the mind that recognizes stillness as its own nature, even amid motion, that mind is unshakable. In the center of the hurricane, there is calm. In the center of the heart, there is awareness that does not cling, does not judge, does not flee. It watches. And in that watching, something profound occurs. Suffering loses its grip. How to stay calm and positive, people ask, as if calmness and positivity were ornaments to wear, to project, to perform. But true calm does not sparkle. It is not a mood, but a foundation. It arises from a mind that has seen through the illusion of permanence, and no longer places its trust in what can be taken away. When we live tethered to outcomes, we are forever on edge. But when we live tethered to the present, bare, vivid, alive, calm is the natural result. The Buddha's first teaching after awakening was direct. There is suffering. There is a cause. There is an end. There is a path. No grand metaphysics. No supernatural promises. Just a map of the human experience, illuminated by deep seeing. And where does suffering end? It ends where clinging ends. Where identity softens. Where the self is no longer defended like a fortress but seen like a cloud, real in appearance, empty in essence. This is not to deny the self. It is to liberate it from false walls. To live without fear, one must stop believing in the permanence of anything. Fear thrives in attachment. In the belief that this must stay or that must never happen. But all things arise dependent on causes and conditions. Your body, your relationships, your work, even your breath, all of them are temporary guests. To see this clearly is not nihilism. It is reverence. Because when you know everything is passing, you begin to be with life rather than trying to own it. You listen more. You rush less. You love without armor. You let go without resentment. Transform your mind, the teachings say, not by suppression, not by force, but by understanding. Understanding the roots of your reactions. The shadows behind your habits. The patterns you inherited unknowingly. Sit with your mind like a wise friend sits with a restless child. Not to scold it, but to soothe it through presence. To ask, gently, what are you afraid of? What do you long for? And most of all, is it true? This is insight. And insight is the light that dissolves delusion. Buddhist lessons for anxiety do not promise a life without uncertainty. They offer tools for walking through uncertainty without collapse. Anxiety arises when the mind outruns the present, building futures that don't exist, rehearsing disasters, grasping at control. The antidote is not to banish thought, but to return. Return to the body. The breath. The sensation of air against the skin. Here, now. In this simple, sacred moment, the mind can rest. Not because the future is solved, but because the present is enough. Protect your energy by remembering you are not responsible for every ripple in the world. You are responsible for the clarity of your own presence. If you pollute your inner waters with endless comparison, with news that inflames and distracts, with environments that drain and scatter, your own light dims. You become reactive, brittle, easily lost. But when you guard your inner space with wisdom and care, you become steady like a mountain. You meet others not from depletion, but from abundance. And in this way, you give the world the greatest gift, your wholeness. When you feel lost, do not rush to be found. Let yourself be lost. Wander with awareness. Sit beneath the tree of your own doubt and listen to the wind of impermanence passing through. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost are not about finding direction. They are about returning to stillness. From stillness, clarity rises like morning mist lifting from the valley. You do not need to be certain. You need to be present. The path will reveal itself not all at once, but step by step, breath by breath. And in this sacred pause between striving and surrender, between grasping and release, you come face to face with the truth the Buddha pointed to again and again. There is no thing to cling to. Not even the teachings. The raft is to cross the river, not to carry on your back once you've reached the shore. Even wisdom must be let go. Even awakening is not a possession, but a seeing through. A dissolution. A softening into suchness. Carry nothing. Cling to nothing. And you will find that what remains is not emptiness, but fullness beyond naming. Not void, but vast aliveness. The end of suffering is not the end of feeling. It is the end of distortion. The end of reacting to life through the lens of fear and control. What remains is clarity, compassion, a natural radiance that asks for nothing and gives everything. You do not have to earn this. You only have to stop running from what is. Sit. Breathe. Watch the mind dance. And keep returning. There is no failure on this path. Only remembering. And forgetting. And remembering again. This is where suffering ends, not in grand revelations, but in the humble willingness to be fully here. No additions. No stories. Just this. A breath. A body. A mind returning to its own source. If this teaching has reached you in a quiet hour of reflection, I welcome you to walk further with us. Subscribe to Daily Dharma Listening so that the silence and insight may return to meet you again. Like this if it softens something in your chest. Share it with a friend who carries too much. May the Dharma continue to ripple, not through preaching, but through presence. And you, walk gently. The gate is already open. Part 7. The art of returning, waking up again and again in ordinary life. In the life of every seeker, there comes a quiet moment, not dramatic, not lit by visions or miracles, but tender and almost invisible, when you realize the journey is not about going far, but about returning. Again and again. This moment arrives not in the midst of triumph or insight, but often in the middle of an ordinary morning, when you are sipping tea or watching the sky, and the still voice of the Dharma rises without fanfare. You forgot again. But you can return now. This is the art of the path, not in never straying, but in never abandoning the possibility of return. The Buddha did not become awakened by avoiding mistakes, by living a life of sterile perfection. He awakened by seeing clearly the nature of the mind, of craving, of suffering, of clinging. He saw the process unfold within himself. And he saw that the way out was not through more doing, but through stillness. Through awareness. Through presence. Through return. To return is to recognize that this breath, right here, is enough. That this moment is not a stepping stone to the next, but a complete temple of awareness in itself. When you return, you reclaim yourself from the endless chase, for status, for meaning, for answers, for becoming someone. You stop reaching outward and begin resting inward. It is here, in this sacred pause, that wisdom begins to breathe again. Most people ask how to stay calm and positive as if those states can be maintained like settings on a machine. But calm is not a permanent acquisition. It is a rhythm. A movement. Like the tide. It rises and falls. It is not a failure to lose it. It is a forgetting. And forgetting is part of the path. Positivity, too, is not about forceful optimism or artificial cheer. It is about clear seeing. About noticing that even in hardship, beauty has not disappeared. That even in pain, presence is still available. That even in the noise, the silence has not left. The Dharma is not a performance. It is not a way of becoming spiritual in the eyes of others. It is the very real, often raw, practice of noticing where you are. Of observing the mind's habits without collapse. Of watching desire arise, and instead of indulging or repressing, simply naming it, wanting, wanting. And then watching it pass. In this way, the ordinary moments of life, washing dishes, walking the dog, folding clothes, become fields of awakening. You don't need a temple. You need attention. To find peace in chaos, you must abandon the search for ideal conditions. Waiting for the world to calm down is like waiting for the wind to stop before you light a candle. It will never be still long enough. Instead, you must build a shelter within. Not a wall, but a space of spaciousness. Peace does not mean stillness outside. It means stillness inside, the capacity to sit at the center of the swirl without losing your ground. Live without fear by investigating its roots. Fear is not the enemy. It is a messenger. It shows you where you are still holding tightly, where you still believe something must go a certain way in order for you to be okay. But nothing ever truly goes your way. The path unfolds according to countless causes and conditions, most of which are beyond your control. Fear softens not when you defeat it, but when you understand it. When you see that its stories are based on illusion, on the mistaken belief that you are a fixed self who must protect its borders. To transform your mind is not to turn it into something else, but to allow it to become transparent, like glass cleaned of smudges, like water undisturbed. The transformed mind is not a different mind. It is the original mind, unobstructed. It is the mind that watches the arising and passing of thought without grasping. It is the mind that sees clearly, and because it sees clearly, it is no longer enslaved. Buddhist lessons for anxiety do not begin by promising immediate relief. They begin by asking you to come closer, to get curious, to feel the sensations in the body, to notice the speed of thought, the pressure in the chest, the tightening in the throat. They invite you not to push away, but to attend, with tenderness, with honesty. And when you do, something begins to shift. The anxiety becomes less monstrous, less solid. It begins to unravel, thread by thread, in the warm light of attention. Protect your energy by choosing where you place your mind. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the guardian of your awareness. You cannot control what others say or do. But you can learn to respond, rather than react. You can learn to see clearly, rather than project. You can learn to care deeply, without becoming entangled. This is not coldness. It is love with boundaries. It is compassion with wisdom. It is presence without depletion. When you feel lost, it is not because you are off the path. It is because you are in a place the map does not cover. The old guides no longer serve you. The familiar signposts have faded. But this is not danger, it is expansion. The path of return cannot be mapped by logic. It is walked through surrender, through trust, through listening. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost are not instructions. They are gentle invitations. Come back to the breath. Come back to the body. Come back to now. The way is here, even if you cannot name it. The art of returning is also the art of forgiveness, not just toward others, but toward yourself. You will forget. You will fall back into habits. You will say the thing you promised not to say. You will close your heart again and again. But you are not required to be perfect. You are required to be honest, to notice, to stop, to breathe, and to return. There is great nobility in the one who falls and stands up again, with humility, with resolve, with love. Presence is not a rare state. It is your true nature. What is rare is the willingness to remain in it, to resist the urge to flee, into distraction, into planning, into worry, into performance. But each time you choose to stay, to feel what is here, to meet life without adding or subtracting, you strengthen your connection to what is most real. This is the slow unfolding of awakening, not a sudden blaze, but the gradual clearing of clouds. One breath at a time. One honest moment at a time. One act of return. So today, return. Return not with shame, not with guilt, but with grace. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right on time. Because the path never left. It has always been waiting. Beneath the noise. Beneath the forgetting. In the stillness of this very breath. And as you walk, walk gently. Carry nothing. Expect nothing. Just meet what is here. That is enough. That is the way. Let the art of returning be your sacred rhythm, not a backup plan, but your most intimate devotion. And as you return, you remember, this moment is your home. This breath is your altar. This life is your practice. Keep walking. Keep remembering. Keep returning. Until one day, the one who returns disappears, and only presence remains. Part 8. The emptiness that holds everything, entering the heart of Buddhist wisdom. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world has not yet begun to speak, there is a stillness that feels ancient, not merely the absence of sound, but a presence deeper than language. It is in such moments that the most subtle teachings of the Buddha come alive, not through books, not through debate, but through direct knowing. And among those teachings, there is none more misunderstood and more luminous than the teaching of emptiness. To the untrained mind, it may sound cold, abstract, or void. But to the one who listens beyond fear, emptiness is not the absence of meaning, it is the very field in which all things are held with love and clarity. It is the space in which freedom becomes possible. Emptiness, sunyata, is not nihilism. It is not the denial of life, but the seeing through of false solidity. It is the recognition that all phenomena, every thought, every emotion, every identity, every object, arise dependent on causes and conditions. Nothing stands alone. Nothing exists in and of itself. Everything is interwoven, contingent, momentary. To see this is not to fall into despair. It is to fall into spaciousness, into relief, into the vast understanding that since all things arise and pass, no state is final, and no self is fixed. When you feel overwhelmed by the pressures of identity, who you must be, what you must achieve, how others see you, remember, the self is not a possession, not a statue carved in stone. It is a process, like a wave, shaped by wind and tide and moon. You are not broken if you change. You are not failing if you question. You are alive. The Dharma does not ask you to define yourself. It asks you to observe. And in observation, the self loosens its grip, and the heart begins to open. How to stay calm and positive in a world that trembles and burns. Begin with the view of emptiness. Not as a belief, but as an experiment. Watch your thoughts arise. Watch how they disappear. Notice how no thought is permanent, how no feeling lasts. You do not need to push them away. You need only to watch. In time, you begin to see that the mind is like a sky, and all its content, fear, joy, doubt, hope, are like passing clouds. Why would you cling to a cloud? Why would you fear one? They come and go. The sky remains. To find peace in chaos is to stop trying to make the world conform to your preferences. Instead, it is to begin seeing that the world never promised to stay still. That your peace cannot depend on things going your way. Real peace is the peace of non-grasping. The peace that comes when you stop insisting that this moment be different. That this person behave a certain way. That this body not age. That this pain not exist. When you stop fighting reality, you begin to rest. Not because life became easier, but because you stop demanding that it be other than it is. Live without fear by questioning the narratives that fear builds. Fear always tells a story. If this happens, I will collapse. If they leave, I will be alone forever. If I fail, I will be nothing. But every story is a construction. And constructions depend on belief. Emptiness does not mean these experiences have no value. It means they are not fixed, not unchanging. And that recognition offers space. In space, there is room to breathe. In space, there is the possibility of meeting life without armor. Transform your mind through the practice of non-attachment. Not by withdrawing from life, but by participating with open hands. Let joy come and go. Let sorrow pass through like a wave. Let people arrive and depart. Let plans succeed or unravel. Do your part, but do not grip. Offer love, but do not demand return. Walk your path, but do not mistake it for the only one. The empty mind is not barren. It is free. It is full of the present. And the present is always enough. Buddhist lessons for anxiety point again and again to this same truth. Anxiety arises when we treat the future as real, as fixed, as certain to go wrong. But the future is a dream. A projection. It does not exist. The only place anxiety can live is in the mind that refuses to rest here. So come back. Again and again. To the breath. To the sound. To the contact of foot on floor. You are safe in this moment. Even if pain is present. Even if uncertainty surrounds you. You are not required to solve everything. You are only asked to be here. Protect your energy by not attaching to every thought that calls your name. You do not have to respond to every mental notification. You can let it arise and let it pass. Every judgment, every fear, every craving, these are not commands. They are habits. They are echoes. You can bow to them without obeying them. This is how you become sovereign, not by controlling the mind, but by no longer believing it without question. When you feel lost, you are closer to awakening than you think. Lostness is not failure. It is the moment the old compass stops working. It is the crack in the structure. The invitation to see with new eyes. Buddhist reminders: when you feel lost, whisper gently, be still. The path is not out there. It is not a new idea. It is not a better version of your story. It is the silence underneath the story. The awareness that watches even the feeling of being lost, and is not shaken. Emptiness, seen rightly, is the deepest form of compassion. Because when you see that all beings suffer due to clinging to what is not solid, you begin to soften. You stop blaming. You stop punishing. You begin to forgive, yourself first, and then the world. You see that no one is the villain they appear to be. They are just caught, just grasping, just afraid. Just like you. And in this mutual seeing, separation dissolves. You do not need to understand emptiness with the intellect. Let it reveal itself through your daily life. When a moment of irritation arises, a delay, a criticism, a disappointment, watch how the mind reacts. Watch how it builds a self to defend. And then ask, what if I do not take this personally? What if there is no fixed me being harmed? What if this is just sensation, just thought, just weather? In that pause, you have already stepped into liberation. Emptiness is not loneliness. It is intimacy with all things. It is the end of boundaries, not the loss of connection. It is the realization that the tree, the sky, the stranger, the pain, the joy, all of it is not separate from you. You are not watching life. You are life. Not possessing it. Not managing it. Being it. This is the invitation of the path, not to become something better, but to see through the illusion of becoming. To rest in what has never been lacking. To walk with a mind like open sky. To let go of the stories, the fears, the tight fists, and to discover what has been here all along. So let the world be what it is. Let the mind be what it is. Let this moment arise and pass. You do not need to hold it. You only need to meet it. Fully. Lovingly. With the knowing that it is empty, and because it is empty, it is luminous. Free. Alive. This is not the end. It is the beginning of truly living. Keep walking. Keep seeing. Keep returning to the vast silence that holds it all. The path is empty, and that is why it can hold everything. Part 9. Beyond the noise, listening for the Dharma in everyday life. There is a hum beneath all things. Beneath the traffic, beneath the words, beneath the scrolling, the notifications, the thoughts chasing thoughts. It is not a sound you can hear with the ears, but a stillness you begin to sense when you tire of running. It's there in the pause between breaths, in the hush that follows a long exhale, in the brief moment your eyes soften when you stop trying to solve everything. This is the hum of the Dharma, not a voice, not a doctrine, but a pulse. And the more we begin to listen, the more we begin to live. Not as machines reacting, not as identities defending, but as presence unfolding. And this is where Buddhist wisdom begins, not in exotic teachings, but in our own willingness to hear what has always been speaking. The Buddha did not deliver his message in shouts. He did not carve it into stone or flash it across the sky. He walked the forests and villages barefoot, in silence more often than in speech. When he did speak, it was with stillness in his tone, stillness that reached past the surface of things. His words were fingers pointing to the moon, but the seeing had to be your own. And so it is today. In the middle of your life, with its tangled obligations and aching timelines, the Dharma still whispers. But you must choose to listen beyond the noise. The modern world has mastered the art of distraction. The moment stillness begins to rise, something tugs you away. A sound. A scream. A memory. A fear. It's easy to become a stranger to your own mind. To live for days, even years, without truly being present in your own breath. But the Dharma does not abandon those who forget. It waits. Patiently. It does not punish. It does not shame. It simply returns each morning with the sunlight and each evening with the quiet. When you are ready, it is here. How to stay calm and positive is a question that begins with how, but perhaps it must begin instead with where. Where is your mind resting? Where is your attention flowing? In what fields are you planting the seeds of your thought? If your days are spent soaking in fear, comparison, and urgency, then of course your inner garden will be overgrown with thorns. But if you can reclaim your awareness, even for a few breaths a day, you begin to notice a shift. Calmness is not the absence of movement. It is the steadiness at the center. Positivity is not cheerfulness, it is clarity. And clarity arises in silence. The Dharma speaks in small things. In the rhythm of footsteps on dry leaves. In the way steam curls from your morning cup. In the ache of your own shoulders after a long day, reminding you that you are human and this body is not permanent. You don't need to leave the world to find the teachings. You need only to be in it, fully, wakefully, gently. The Buddha's insights are not relics. They are tools. And they do not demand robes or rituals. They ask only for attention. To find peace in chaos, you must remember, chaos is not new. The human world has always trembled. Empires have always risen and fallen. Lives have always been unpredictable. What changes is whether you identify with the trembling or with the stillness beneath it. Imagine yourself as the surface of a lake. Wind, rain, and disturbance will come. But beneath the surface is always the depth, untouched. The Dharma helps you sink into that depth, not by ignoring the world, but by refusing to be enslaved by it. Live without fear by turning inward, not to hide, but to understand. Fear thrives when you believe you are only this body, only this job, only this relationship, only this story. But when you begin to experience yourself as awareness, as the space in which everything happens rather than the object that things happen to, fear softens. You still feel, but you are not shadowed. You still love, but you do not possess. You still fall, but you know how to rise. Because you are not the fall, you are the space around it. To transform your mind is not to upgrade it like software. It is to empty it. To cleanse it of its reflexive judgments, of its need to grasp and name and fix. It is to allow thought to be thought, arising, dancing, dissolving, without mistaking it for truth. The Buddha's teaching is not to stop thinking, but to stop believing every thought is absolute. When you watch the mind like this, you start to see the illusion, the way it creates stories about what you are, what you must do, what others mean. And in that seeing, freedom begins. Buddhist lessons for anxiety are not about suppression. They are about turning toward the source. When anxiety rises, pause. Drop the storyline. Come into the body. Where does it live? In the chest? The belly? The throat? Let it tremble. Let it speak. But do not become it. Stay with the breath. Let each inhale be an anchor. Let each exhale be a release. You are not trying to fix anything. You are holding it in the light. That alone begins to unravel the knot. Protect your energy by being honest about what drains you. Not in bitterness, but in wisdom. Some environments steal your clarity. Some conversations leave you scattered. Some patterns of thought exhaust you more than any task. Become aware. Buddhist practice is not just about meditation cushions, it is about choosing to live in a way that supports awakening. Let go of what dims your light. Choose what strengthens your peace. You are not selfish for doing so. You are wise. When you feel lost, perhaps you are exactly where you need to be. In Buddhist teaching, the path is not a straight road. It loops. It doubles back. It disappears beneath your feet. And that, too, is practice. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost do not say, go faster. They say, stop. Look around. What is here? Not in your imagination, not in your plans, but here, in your hands, in your breath, in this room. Sometimes being lost is how you learn to listen again. Sometimes the silence in the dark is where you finally hear your own soul speak. The Dharma is not another noise. It is the stillness underneath them all. And to walk the path is not to reject life, but to enter it more deeply, without illusions, without defenses, with compassion. You will forget this. And that is not a failure. That is the design. Forgetting creates the conditions for remembering. And every time you return, the path deepens. You don't need to become anything more. You need to become more awake to what already is. The wind carries the same teaching as the sutras. The grief in your chest has the same nature as the morning bell in a monastery. Your ordinary life is not in the way of practice, it is the practice. Every step, every word, every moment can either deepen sleep or deepen presence. You choose. So today, listen. Beneath the plans, beneath the goals, beneath the stories, what do you hear? Listen for the Dharma not in special places, but in your own willingness to stop. In the breath you're taking now. In the silence that follows this sentence. Let the world keep spinning. Let your mind keep moving. But stay, even for one breath, in this stillness. And there, in the quiet, remember, everything you've been seeking has been waiting for your attention. The teaching is not far. It is under your feet. It is in the air. It is in your looking, your loving, your breathing. May you remember again. May you listen well. And may you continue, not as someone chasing wisdom, but as wisdom remembering itself. Part 10. The fire that does not burn, embracing inner stillness in a restless world. There is a fire that burns within you, but it is not the fire of ambition, nor of anger, nor of desire. It is not the fire that consumes or demands. It is the fire of clarity, silent, unshakable, ancient. It has no smoke, no heat, and no hunger. It is the still light of knowing that remains even when all else collapses. In the chaos of modern life, where everything insists on urgency, where every voice screams for attention, this fire does not clamor. It simply glows. And those who learn to sit beside it, to rest in its warmth without trying to possess it, begin to discover the freedom that the Buddha pointed to not in theory, but in direct experience. From the outside, it may seem that this world belongs to those who move fast, speak loud, and shine brightly for others. But from within, we begin to sense that nothing truly lasting comes from force. That peace does not bloom from control. That fulfillment does not grow in noise. The path of Buddhist wisdom is not against the world, it is through the world, but with different eyes. It sees the same events, but without clinging. It meets the same sorrows, but without collapse. And most of all, it honors a deeper truth, that you already carry within you the stillness you seek in others, in success, in future moments that never quite arrive. How to stay calm and positive, people ask, as though peace is a reward, something to be gained through right behavior or acquired like a new possession. But Buddhist teachings turn the question inside out. It is not about adding calmness. It is about removing what disturbs it. The calm is already there, beneath the layers of reactivity, beneath the tight grasp of should and must and what if. Like a pond disturbed by a stone, the mind only needs time and stillness to settle again. But we keep throwing stones. We keep stirring the surface. We mistake movement for meaning. And in doing so, we overlook the clear depth beneath. To find peace in chaos, you must see chaos not as a problem to solve but as a teacher. The world will always move. People will disappoint you. Plans will unravel. Bodies will ache. Things will not go according to your script. But none of these conditions prevent peace. Peace is not circumstantial. It is not the absence of noise, but the presence of spaciousness. It is what arises when you stop trying to control what was never yours. It is the result of letting the world be the world, and letting yourself simply be. Live without fear by resting in the impermanence of all things. What you fear most, loss, failure, death, rejection, are not the enemy. The enemy is your belief that these things define you. But everything changes. Pain comes and goes. Joy comes and goes. Thoughts, bodies, identities, all come and go. Fear only grows when we try to make what is passing feel permanent. But when we accept the flux, fear loses its form. It becomes wind passing through trees, not a weight upon the chest. To transform your mind is not a heroic act. It is not a dramatic journey to some perfect version of yourself. It is the simple, consistent act of returning, again and again, to this moment. This breath. This awareness. It is the humility to notice when you've drifted into judgment, into story, into grasping, and to gently bring yourself back, without punishment. Over time, this becomes not effort, but nature. The mind softens. The heart opens. The fire burns steady, not wild and consuming, but warm and clear. Buddhist lessons for anxiety invite you not to escape, but to stay, not to amplify your fears, but to make space for them. When anxiety rises, notice the mind's pace. Notice how it spins. How it tries to protect you with worst-case scenarios. How it fills the silence with sound. But you are not the sound. You are the space. Return to the breath. Place your hand on your heart. Let the moment be enough. You do not need to solve anything right now. You need only to be here, fully. And slowly, the tension releases its grip. Protect your energy not by closing yourself off, but by becoming wise about what you open to. Not every conversation needs your presence. Not every conflict needs your reply. Not every thought needs your belief. Imagine your awareness as a sacred space. Ask gently before allowing anything to enter, is this nourishing? Is this true? Is this mine to carry? You owe the world your clarity, not your exhaustion. When you feel lost, and you will, many times, remember that lostness is not a failure of direction. It is often a sign that your old way of seeing no longer fits. The map you followed has led you to the edge of something vaster. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost do not offer quick reassurances. They offer something more precious, a mirror. Look inward. Not to find a fixed identity, but to witness the flow of thought, the dance of emotion, the illusion of control. And as you watch, you realize, the one who is lost is just a thought, rising, falling, like all the rest. The fire that does not burn lives in that place where awareness no longer clings. Where the self no longer defends. Where silence no longer frightens you. You feel it when you sit with your own suffering and do not turn away. You sense it when you let a loved one go, not with bitterness but with blessing. You embody it when you speak only what is true, only what is needed, and find that silence says more than noise ever could. This is not a path of cold detachment. It is a path of warm intimacy with what is. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to become indifferent. It asks you to become awake. To feel fully, but without drowning. To love, but without grasping. To live, but without clinging. Your ordinary life is your teacher. The waiting in traffic. The spilled coffee. The ache in your back. The surprise laughter. The missed call. The breeze at your window. Each moment is a bell. Each breath a doorway. But you must stop long enough to walk through. To carry the fire that does not burn is to move through the world as presence, not pushing, not pulling, not performing. Just being. Awake. Clear. Soft. Steady. You do not need to light the fire. You are the fire. And if these words have reminded you of something you had forgotten, not something new, but something timeless within, I invite you to stay close to this path. Subscribe to Daily Dharma Listening so this stream of remembering can return again, in stillness, in simplicity, in truth. Like this offering if it stirred something real in your chest. Share it with another who needs silence more than noise. May the Dharma ripple. You are already home. Let the fire keep you warm. Let the stillness show you the way. Let the path carry you, gently, fully, now. Part 11. The gentle strength of non-resistance, flowing like water through the moments of life. There is a way of being in this world that does not fight the current, does not brace against the wave, does not clench its fists around the changing winds. It is not passivity, not surrender in the defeated sense, but a strength so deep it does not need to declare itself. It is the gentle strength of non-resistance, the way of water, of breath, of silence. The way of the Dharma. And in this way, life continues to unfold, but the struggle begins to dissolve. You still move, still feel, still live fully, but you stop opposing what is. And in that sacred pause between reactivity and awareness, you find yourself flowing again. Not controlled. Not lost. But present. Grounded. Alive. The Buddha did not teach escape. He did not promise that life would become neat or free from difficulty. Instead, he pointed to a shift so subtle it cannot be forced, only remembered. When you stop resisting what arises, suffering begins to loosen its grip. Not because the pain disappears, but because the self that tightens around it begins to soften. You remain aware, steady, and wide enough to let all things pass through you. Like the sky does not hold the weather, like the sea does not fear the wave, the awakened heart does not resist the unfolding. You ask how to stay calm and positive, but the real invitation is deeper. How do you stop feeding the inner war? Calmness is not a trick of breathing, not a forced stillness. It is what arises naturally when you no longer argue with this moment. Positivity is not blind hope or spiritual decoration. It is the clarity that comes from seeing things as they are, without adding unnecessary commentary. The world moves. Thoughts rise. Plans unravel. But you remain with the breath, like a mountain in wind, like a leaf in sunlight, like water in a stream. This is the strength of softness. This is the wisdom of letting go. To find peace in chaos, you must look past appearances. Chaos is not the enemy. It is the natural dance of impermanence. What creates suffering is not the storm, but the refusal to get wet. We plan, we control, we structure everything to avoid uncertainty, yet life remains wild, untamed, irreducibly fluid. Buddhist practice does not tame the wild. It teaches you how to dance with it. How to move through change like bamboo, bending without breaking. How to meet uncertainty with open palms. How to step into the unknown with a quiet, rooted presence that does not need to predict or manage. Live without fear by shifting your allegiance. Right now, you believe that security comes from knowing, from having, from keeping. But all these things are unstable. The body will age. Relationships will shift. Status will rise and fall. The only true refuge is awareness itself. The watcher. The open space behind the changing forms. You do not need to fix everything to be safe. You do not need to eliminate the unknown to be free. Fear loses its fuel when you stop expecting permanence. To transform your mind, practice noticing what you resist. That difficult emotion. That uncomfortable silence. That unmet expectation. Watch the moment your body tenses, your thoughts defend, your heart closes. And instead of following the resistance, pause. Feel what happens if you just let it be. Not indulge it. Not act on it. Just let it rise and fall. At first, the mind will panic. It will scream, "Do something." But if you sit long enough, you will see the wave crest and pass. And in its place, a spaciousness remains, deeper than before. You have just transformed not by effort, but by non-resistance. Buddhist lessons for anxiety remind us that anxiety is a tightening, a shrinking away from what is. It is the child of control. But you cannot control life, only your relationship to it. When the anxious mind stirs, return to the breath. Drop the story. Feel the energy in the body. Stay close to it without naming it. Let it shake if it needs to. Let it weep. Let it be. This is not weakness. This is deep courage. To meet what arises without flinching. To allow even fear to unfold within awareness. Protect your energy not by hiding, but by resting in truth. There are people, places, habits, thoughts, all of which pull you out of presence. Not out of malice, but out of habit. The way to protect your energy is not to resist these things with aggression, but to see them clearly. To notice what contracts your being, and choose spaciousness instead. Not from anger. From clarity. From compassion. You are not required to exhaust yourself for others. You are not required to please the world. Your only task is to remain rooted in presence, and from that ground, all your actions will naturally arise. When you feel lost, perhaps you are closer to the path than ever. The known has fallen away. The structures you once relied on no longer hold. The questions no longer yield answers. Good. This is the doorway. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost invite you to stop searching for ground. To find stillness even in freefall. You are not being punished. You are being emptied. So that something deeper can emerge, not a new identity, not a stronger persona, but a more spacious being. One who walks through the world with less need, and more wonder. Non-resistance is not the absence of boundaries. It is not allowing harm or abandoning discernment. It is the art of meeting each moment with openness first, rather than defense. You do not need to collapse. You do not need to fight. You can simply be, clear, awake, soft. When something comes, let it come. When it goes, let it go. The self that resists is afraid. The self that watches knows no fear. Imagine moving through your day with this attitude. The phone rings. The plan changes. Someone misunderstands you. You feel the familiar pull to react, to fix, to control. But instead, you breathe. You listen. You allow. And you find that nothing truly harms you when you stop resisting it. Pain still visits. But it passes through. Like wind through open curtains. Like rain through leaves. You remain. Untouched. Alive. The gentle strength of non-resistance does not shout. It does not shine. It does not seek validation. But it changes everything. It allows you to live fully without being shaken by each ripple. To love without demand. To work without being consumed. To rest without guilt. It is the way of the wise. The way of the Buddha. The way of freedom. And if these words have stirred something in you, not a new idea, but an ancient knowing, I welcome you to continue on this path. Subscribe to Daily Dharma Listening so these teachings may continue to guide you home. Like this offering if it softens something within. Share it with someone you love who is weary of the fight. Let the Dharma ripple in quiet ways. You do not need to push. You do not need to hold. You only need to soften. And in that softening, everything begins to flow. Let yourself be like water. Let yourself be free. Let resistance fall. And walk gently through this world, awake, rooted, alive. Part 12. Nothing to hold, nothing to fear, resting in the truth of what is. There comes a point on the path, not marked by fanfare, not celebrated by crowds, when the seeker, weary not from failure but from striving, begins to see that there is, in truth, nothing left to hold. No role that can truly define them. No possession that can secure them. No thought that can protect them. No future that can save them. There is only this breath, this ground beneath their feet, this open field of being in which life rises and falls like mist upon the mountain. And in that seeing, what was once feared begins to dissolve. What was once clung to begins to fall away. What was once sought with desperation is revealed to have always been present, unchanging, untouched, already enough. This is not the end of the journey. It is the end of illusion. And in that ending, true peace begins. The Buddha called it nirvana, the extinguishing of the fires, of greed, of hatred, of delusion. But this is not annihilation. It is not the death of being, but the death of becoming. The death of needing each moment to become something other than what it is. When the fires go out, what remains is luminous stillness. A mind not pulling forward or back. A heart no longer pushing or resisting. A self so empty it is vast, able to contain all joy, all sorrow, all of life without collapse. You no longer fear the dark, because you have sat inside it and discovered it is not absence but womb. You no longer chase after light, because you have found it where you are. You no longer dread silence, because silence is not a void but a voice, the most honest one you've ever known. To live without fear is not to live without feeling. It is to allow all things to arise and pass, knowing that you are not what comes and goes. You are the knowing, the spaciousness, the field in which the waves appear. This truth does not make you indifferent, it makes you free. Free to love without attachment. free to grieve without collapse, free to act without need for reward, free to live without needing each moment to be different. In the end, the deepest insight is also the simplest. There is no self to defend, no future to guarantee, no past to correct. There is only the unfolding. This breath, this step, this seeing, this letting go. And when there is nothing left to hold, what remains is not emptiness as the mind fears, it is freedom. It is peace. You may still feel pain, but it will not define you. You may still face difficulty, but it will not consume you. You may still walk through fire, but it will not burn you. Because the one who burns, the one who fears, the one who resists, that one is seen through. That one has softened, has loosened, has returned to the earth. You no longer need to be someone. You no longer need to arrive anywhere. You no longer need to prove or protect or perform. You are what you have been seeking, not in form, but in awareness. Not in thought, but in presence. Not in effort, but in stillness. And now, with the fire of craving extinguished, the winds of fear calmed, the clamor of ego softened, you rest. Not as escape, not as withdrawal, but as clarity, as naturalness, as the unshakable peace of one who has stopped fighting life. You move gently now. You speak with less noise. You choose with more care. You listen without needing to reply. You give without expectation. You love without needing to own. You walk this earth not as someone important, but as someone real, humble, present, aware. And so, the journey becomes not one of doing, but of being. Not one of gaining, but of releasing. Not one of adding, but of uncovering. What you were looking for was never outside you. What you feared was never truly real. What you defended was never truly threatened. You have always been this sky, these mountains, this wind, this breath. The teachings were not meant to give you something. They were meant to strip away what was never you. The Dharma does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It does not demand belief. It invites seeing. It does not promise comfort. It offers freedom. So rest now. Not because the world is fixed. Not because all questions are answered. But because you see clearly. Because you understand enough. Because you are no longer turning away. Nothing to hold. Nothing to fear. Just this. And in this, everything. Let the silence return. Let the breath settle. Let the self dissolve. You are home. You always were.